Oh, you son of a gun. Hold on. Dangy, dangy, bangy, baby. That sucked. Okay.
Jennifer Griffin, she's got some breaking news to add to what we are learning right now about this operation. Jennifer.
Sandra, I just spoke with a senior U.S. official that confirmed to Fox that the U.S. does believe that Ali Khamenei, the Ayatollah, was killed along with 5 to 10 top Iranian leaders in that initial Israeli strike on his compound earlier today that launched this day of strikes, the last 12 hours. They agree with Israel's intelligence assessment. But what is most interesting to me is that the multiple sources have told me that the strike had to be moved up based on intelligence and this so-called target of opportunity. There was a deliberate decision to accelerate the timeline and to strike during the daytime, which is extremely unusual. Usually the U.S. would not strike during the daytime, but they wanted to catch the senior leadership off guard. It was a Saturday morning during Ramadan, and it was also Shabbat during the day. And that's when Israel took the opportunity and dropped those 30 bombs on the compound, and the U.S. simultaneously launched strikes against all of the military targets that then we've seen the results of today. I've also learned that the U.S. alone, the U.S. military alone, has carried out nearly 900 strikes in the last airstrikes in the last 12 hours. That is an incredibly high number of strikes in the first 12 hours of this operation, Sandra.
Hey, Jen, it's John here. So the one thing that we sometimes neglect to mention is that one of the big reasons why Midnight Hammer and the 12-Day War were so successful was because Israel had Mossad agents on the ground who were directing activities for the aircraft that were overhead. Do we have any idea? And one of the other things about the 12-Day War that was so brilliant on the part of the Israelis is they managed to attract, to bring together top members of the IRGC leadership, and then they eliminated them. Do we know what the Mossad's potential role was here in making sure that they had everybody in the right place at the right time to launch this strike?
I think it's safe to assume, John, that this was an intelligence-driven operation, and the people who have the best intelligence in that region tend to be Mossad. If you look at what happened last summer in terms of Lebanon and the drawing together of those leaders as well, taking out and decapitating Hezbollah, this is a style of attack and strike and intelligence that really only the Israelis are capable of. And so I think it makes sense that it was their warplanes that struck the compound. But I found it very interesting that the U.S. Had to agree to move up the timeline based on this target of opportunity, and that senior officials, both in Israel as well as in the United States, believe that 5 to 10 top Iranian leaders were killed in that strike, including the IRGC commander killed alongside Ali Khamenei.
Jen, if you could you also give us any further details that we have learned about attacks on U.S. military bases in the Middle East? What do we know at this point?
Well, we know that there have been at least 300 missiles fired by Iran today. Some of them have been missiles, some drones targeting various U.S. military bases. A lot of people may not realize that the U.S. has bases in almost every Gulf country. So from Oman to Kuwait to UAE to Qatar, as well as in Saudi Arabia. In fact, I've just received word from a very senior military source that the U.S. base, the Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, is currently under attack by Iranian ballistic missiles, and that the Saudis are currently shooting down those missiles. But this is a big escalation, and we reported earlier today how significant it was that the Saudis had decided to get off the sidelines and decide to say that they were joining in this operation against Iran once Iran fired missiles into Iranian territory, because they're also firing into some of the areas where oil production is in Saudi Arabia. So
stop sharing. We can do that. There shouldn't be a lag now. I should be able to talk just fine. So, while I'm waiting for my water to boil, we'll get into explosions rock. Bahrain, Dubai, Jordan, and Kuwait as war spreads. I told you this earlier before it was even reported. I reported this, but President Trump has confirmed Iran Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei is dead. Calls it greatest chance for Iranians to take back the country. So people tend to think because he's dead, and also, as I've already reported as well, and you're going to hear getting reported soon, is 7 of the head generals also of the Ayatollah are. So that's a pretty big deal. What's it been, a few hours, and we've already taken out the head of the state. So I mean, that's pretty damn efficient in my book. You know what I mean? That's pretty daggum efficient in my book. So you're bitching about war, but what if this war takes 2 days and we wipe out a fucking tyrannical regime that's oppressing their people? Where are your morals at here, left? Where are your values at? You know what I mean? So Iran struck the world famous. It's probably not going to be over that quick because there are a bunch of terrorists in Iran. So, I mean, the Taliban are attacking right now and all kinds of other stuff. So Iran struck the world famous Fairmont Hotel in Dubai, setting the hotel alight. As the war launched by the U.S. and Israel on Iran quickly spread to the rest of the Middle East on Saturday, residents watched in shock as an Iranian missile hit the 5-star hotel in Dubai's luxurious Palm Jumeirah area. Social media videos showed fires breaking out near the entrance of the hotel, which led to 4 people being injured. There is footage of a missile interception all over the city. They said, "I am packing a suitcase just in case. Not that we can leave because airspace is closed. It is the thing we have all been frightened about happening, and now it has." So there are some, like a bomb fell. It got knocked out by the. Still a big glare there, huh? On both sides. Okay, it don't matter. We'll play this video on the live in a little bit here. I'm sure most of you have seen it. We're just going to keep the updates coming on the war as it goes. Elsewhere in the Gulf, previously considered oasis of stability in the Middle East, similar scenes unfold. Within hours of the first U.S.-Israel bombs being launched, Iran responded with a wide-ranging attack targeting more than 6 countries, pulling in places that had previously untouched by the escalation. And Bahrain, an Iranian drone flew into a high-rise building. So this is going to get crazier and crazier throughout the week if it keeps escalating. And I do believe that we're going to be seeing some attacks here from these people that have infiltrated our country as well. That's just my personal opinion. If it doesn't happen, if the shit gets knocked out real quick, then more power to it. You know what I mean? But on the off chance that this stuff goes on for quite some time, just be ready. Because this is, what the fuck is going on with my hat, guys? Holy shit. Why won't it sit straight on my head? There. Oh, my face is crooked. Anyway, we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? But it, unfortunately, Iran is a sophisticated country. It's a sophisticated enough country anyway. we're going to pull up some of these live feeds and watch some of these bombs dropping and some of these things. And I mean, we'll be doing this off and on, gosh, most of the day probably. Let me pull some stuff up real quick. Bear with me. Here we go. What's this live feed? So let's see what these guys are talking right now. I'm going to minimize that, and we're going to share that onto the screen.
Presents a grave and mounting danger. The international community has long affirmed a simple and necessary principle. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That principle is not a matter of politics. It's a matter of global security. And to that end, the United States is taking lawful actions. This body, the United States Security Council, has acted repeatedly on this threat. 20 years ago, starting in 2006, Resolution 1696 demanded that Iran suspend all uranium enrichment related and reprocessing activities, invoking Chapter 7 of the UN Charter and adopting a legally binding resolution. When Iran failed to comply, this council followed with Resolution 1737, imposing mandatory sanctions, including bans on nuclear-related materials and technology, asset freezes on key individuals and entities linked to their nuclear program, and establishing a sanctions committee. Subsequent resolutions, 1747 in the year 2007, expanded arms embargoes and asset freezes. Resolution 1803 in 2008 tightened restrictions on dual-use goods and calling for the inspections of Iranian cargo. Resolution 1835 in 2008 reaffirmed the need for full compliance. And Resolution 1927 in 2010, which was the most comprehensive, banning ballistic missile activities, tightening the conventional arms embargo, targeting the IRGC and shipping lines, and prohibiting new Iranian banking relationships, built a robust multilateral framework to curb Iran's nuclear and missile pursuits. These measures, again, adopted under Chapter 7, represented the world's collective judgment that Iran's actions posed a threat to international peace and security. And despite numerous opportunities for an alternative path, Iran remained defiant. And the Security Council decided on September 19th of last year, 2025, to restore these measures, snap back sanctions, sending a clear message that the world will not sanctions, sending a clear message that the world will not acquiesce to threats and half measures, and Tehran would be held to account. On top of these actions by the UN, American diplomacy was attempted repeatedly and in good faith. President Trump, Secretary Rubio,
Thank you, by the way, for that extensive work.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, squaring me away as always. I mean, even in just the public reporting, if you see the post-strike shaftables, the vast majority, and fairly so, the vast majority of speculation has been, those are the three strike points. When in actuality, what you realize is these are the vents, these are the caps, the first munition took the cap off, and the other 5 went down the center hole, which if you're planning the target, you would want it to be the direct one going to the bottom. These are the types of things that go into the planning for a strike that the Pentagon would not expect the press corps, the American people, to initially understand. So laying this information out is helpful. But it's also why we ask for a beat, for a moment, for a day or two, the opportunity to tell that story. Because as the chairman said, these men and women that did this mission, they just want to do their job. They're not expecting their story to be told. They're not expecting the glory. They are grateful for the flags and the hugs of family. That's why they do the job. But they also know they were a part of something historic. We know how historic it was. The chairman does. I know. Our staffs know. And so that's why we are, and the president of the United States knows. And that's why it's almost personal when we see the way in which leaks are used to try to disparage the outcome or muddy the waters about the impact of what happened without being responsible with information and allowing the professionals to assess and provide that information just like the chairman did. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that information. And we welcome a few additional questions. Yes, sir.
General, on Sunday, you said final battle damage will take some time. And you also said, I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there at the nuclear facility. So that was just over 3 days ago. So what has changed? Would you use the term obliterated as well?
Sure. Like I said, we don't do BDA.
Everybody's saying it's over, but it's not over. Not yet.
Kristen Welker, moderator of Meet the Press, is joining. Kristen Welker, moderator of Meet the Press, is joining us now.
We feel that is a correct story. Again, when I asked him about the reports that the Supreme Leader has in fact went on to say, quote, a large number of their leaders have also been killed. And that was significant. The fact that he said this was not just one person, Yasmin, the fact that according to President Trump in this phone call that I have with him, he believes it's a correct story that the Supreme Leader has been killed, along with, he says, a large amount of leadership. He says there were 3 attacks, and he says that in some of those subsequent attacks, that is what ultimately killed the leadership of Iran. I asked him when he would know that this operation has been a success. He said it is going very well. We're probably, in terms of 0 to 10, we're close to the 10 spot, if not there. It's going very well. Tremendous damage has been inflicted. The leadership is gone. Large portions of the leadership. They don't know how many, he says, but he says that the leadership has largely been wiped out from Iran. So a significant
huge news
revelation and development in this 3-minute conversation with President Trump. When I said specifically, sir, how will you know that this has been a success? He said, quote, Yasmin, I think it's already been a success.
When he talks about we're at the 10 spot, Kristen, what do you think he means by that? As in the operation has gone well, or we're almost done? We're almost there.
Both. I think he is arguing that so far he believes that the United States has hit its targets, that the United States strategy is playing out. It seemed to be that was part of what he was arguing. But I go back to this last statement, and I'll read it to you in full. I was trying to get a sense of just how long this would be. He said, I think it's already been a success. We've inflicted tremendous damage. It would take them years to rebuild. And then I tried to pin him down on a timeline. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, he said he is making a number of calls right now, speaking to other foreign leaders, and had to end the conversation at that point. But in those 3 minutes, again, saying that the U.S. believes that it is a correct report that the Supreme Leader is killed.
I know this was just 3 minutes, Kristen, but I'm going to ask you to read between the lines a little bit more, which you're very good at. When you were talking to this president, we have heard a little bit about what he wants to happen next, but I think it's important to reiterate for folks what it is he wants to happen next, right? If he's reaching this 10, he feels as if we are almost there. It has been a success. Is this now handing the baton over to the Iranian people to see what then happens, what they're able to do to essentially work towards regime change. And if, in fact, they're not able to pull that off, I mean, there is still the Revolutionary Guard. There are still members of the Supreme Council that are still very much alive. Is the United States, is Israel willing to go back into the ring?
Well, I think that's the big question, Yasmin, about what happens next. In his public comments earlier today, he obviously called on the people of Iran to rise up to seize this moment. I asked him who is going to replace the supreme leader if, in fact, he has been killed. And he essentially said, well, they'll likely call me and get my take on that. He said, I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but it's clear there's a vacuum, that it's not entirely clear. And that's where he points back to the Iranian people themselves to, in this moment, rise up, seize the moment, and carry out regime change in terms of replacing leadership.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
So, absolutely. Nice to be conquerors instead of a bunch of fucking pussies, right? Nice to be conquerors instead of a bunch of cowards. Look, man, I mean, we've already taken out Al Khamenei and 6 or 7 of his leaders. So, I mean, what is there? They don't really have very many options left. I mean, they do. They're terrorists, They gleefully die and martyr themselves so they can rape children in their devil heaven, But, I mean, for the most part, this type of war is really unheard of from America. It's nice to have a president that's going to be tough on our enemies and not let our enemies just walk the fuck all over us. Because if we don't do this now, this generation isn't going to do it. This generation isn't going to do anything to keep this country safe. Fuck, everybody will be speaking fucking Arabic if it's left up to this generation. Look at them. They're in the streets right now in the cities, protesting, breaking shit, getting stupid for fucking Muslims, man. Holy fuck. They would murder you. Like, they're the first ones they're going to kill. You understand that, right? We're not the first ones they're going to come after. You're the ones breaking all their most sacred laws. We're just sitting back and trying to be left the fuck alone, So it is what it is. But I hope you guys are blessed out here today. Hope everybody's safe wherever you are in your communities. We're going to pull up some more. We'll pull up some more stream. Give me 1 second here. Let me pull up a whole nother. We'll take a look at some of these explosions and stuff that are going on out here. They're being blown up in the air. That's why it looks like that. Those are explosions, in case you're wondering. I'm trying to make you stare at my ass. Sorry, guys. At our normal live, we'll be live normally tonight, too, just so you know. Because obviously, America's at war right now, so we'll be live for as much of it as we can. You know what I mean? Jelly bean.
to break out of that.
So we just heard General Keane say that this could be quicker than anticipated. It could be potentially over. It could be potentially over within 2 to 3 weeks, just based on what we're seeing in the early stages of the response here from Iran. And the more we learn about the decapitation of so many of their leaders in the country. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin reporting that a U.S. base in Saudi Arabia has come under attack by incoming ballistic missiles. She joins me now by phone. Jennifer, it's great to have you with us. Terrific reporting all throughout the day. We've been hanging on every one of your reports as we go through this. What's the latest that you're learning now, Jen?
Well, thank you, Martha. In the last hour, I received a report from Saudi Arabia that the Prince Sultan Air Base was under a new ballistic missile attack and that the Saudis were actively shooting those missiles down. I also learned that there will be an emergency Gulf Coordination Council meeting called tomorrow to align all of the Gulf states who are now facing attack from Iran. Basically, all of the countries where the U.S. has bases, Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, as well as Saudi Arabia, they are all now facing incoming Iranian missiles, and that has really caused them to sort of get off the sidelines. And you'll remember when this started, Saudi Arabia said that the U.S. and Israel could not use their airspace to target and strike Iran. But now that Iran has fired on Saudi Arabia, that has changed, and Saudi Arabia, along with the other Gulf states, are entering this operation because they can't sit back and not defend their people from these incoming missiles. So that's significant. I think it's also significant, Martha, that these missiles being fired at the U.S. base in Saudi Arabia, also at the same time, more than a dozen missiles were fired at Israel. And we saw from Trey's reporting how one of those missiles got through and hit in central Tel Aviv. Yep. That was about the same time that we were confirming that the Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, had been killed in those strikes. And it's almost as though the IRGC would have launched a number of missiles simultaneously. We haven't seen quite that number of missiles fired at the same time at Israel in this round in the last 12 hours. Clearly, they were trying to get through the missile defense system and trying to make a point, a sort of a last gasp, if you will, and protest against the killing of not only Ali Khamenei, but based on my reporting, 5 to 10 of the top leaders of Iran's IRGC commander, as well as the defense minister and others, all of them taken out in that initial strike. And then just back to our original reporting in the last 2 hours, we learned from a...
So depending on whoever takes power, everything she said could just be fucking false altogether. You know what I mean? See, everybody's saying it's probably over and that Iran is using their last gasp, but holy fuck, they haven't even used a fucking minuscule amount of what they have. So depending on who takes over the country, I mean, they might just start launching like fucking crazy. They might launch some fucking nukes. Who knows?
تتم هذه كلها صواريخ باليستيه او صواريخ كبيره يتم اطلاقها من قبل الايرانيين قريبه جدا على مدينه القدس. انظر الى هذا الوميض.
I mean, we're making great progress, but just understand, depending on who takes over, they can start launching the entirety of all their shit.
هذا صاروخ باليستي، هذا يستطيع. انظر للصاروخ الباليستي، هذا هو الصاروخ الباليستي، هذا هو الصاروخ الباليستي. يبدو بانه تم اطلاق الصواريخ. هذه عمليه الاشتباك، صاروخ شرقي وصاروخ غربي. هذا الانفجار الذي تراه انفجار كبير، هذا الصاروخ الباليستي ينفجر الان على الهواء مباشره فوق.
Better not cry. Better not cry. Poor dog. On camera, Iran hammer. I have to bear with these feeds. You gotta understand they're getting fucking bombed. You know, all the feeds are gonna be a little.
شوفين لغاية ما بعلن
现在是以色列当地时间13号晚间9点多，我现在呢是在耶路撒冷，那大家可以听到现在城市上空啊拉响了防空警报，这个声音非常的尖锐。
So later on, the feed busted out again. Let's see if we can find another feed, guys, so we don't miss. Their feed bummed out. Oh, the UN Security Council is meeting live right now about all of this.
And the region. And they represent a clear and worrying warning of the possible real and human consequences of the escalation of the armed conflict. The Republic of Panama notes with grave concern the severity of recent events, which could trigger a regional conflict with serious direct repercussions on neighboring countries, such as those that have just been suffered by Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, which Panama considers to be lamentable.
Este escenario debe evitarse,
This scenario must be avoided,
especialmente en un contexto
especially
en
in
que el
a
Oriente
context
Medio ya ha
in which
sido
the Middle East
gravemente
has
afectado
already been
por diversas
seriously
crisis
affected
en los
by
últimos
various
años,
crises in recent
cuyas
years, the
consecuencias
consequences of
pueden
which
trascender
may
y perjudicar
extend and
más
cause
allá
harm
de la región
That's what we're
inmediata
beyond
right now for
the
the
al
immediate
resto del
region
mundo, con
and may affect the rest of the world with
incalculables.
incalculable
La
consequences.
intensificación de las tensiones
The
solo
intensification of
incrementará la
tensions
inestabilidad
will
y el
only
sufrimiento,
increase instability
afectando
and suffering,
particularmente a las poblaciones
particularly
más
impacting the
vulnerables,
most
Yeah,
vulnerable
que son
populations,
siempre
Sorry, I just
las
noticed that.
primeras
those
en
that are
padecer
always the
las
first to
consecuencias del
suffer
conflicto.
the consequences of conflict.
El escenario incierto y peligroso que
In this
enfrentamos
uncertain and
nos
dangerous
recuerda
situation that we
que es
face,
fundamental garantizar
we are
el
reminded
respeto y
that it
protección
is
de la
essential
población
to
civil
guarantee
durante
the
el
respect
conflicto,
for and
en
protection of the
concordancia
civilian
con el derecho
population during
internacional
conflict,
humanitario,
in accordance
los
with
valores
international
que este
humanitarian
Consejo
law and the
está
values
llamado a
that this
proteger.
Council is called upon
Por
to
ello,
protect.
reiteramos nuestro
Therefore,
llamado
we reiterate
urgente
our urgent
al
call
diálogo,
for
la
dialogue,
contención
restraint,
y el cese del uso de
and
la
the
fuerza.
cessation of the use of
La
force.
diplomacia y la negociación,
Diplomacy and
conforme a los
negotiation,
principios consagrados
in
en la
accordance
Carta de
with the
las
principles
Naciones
enshrined in the
Unidas
Charter
y
of
en
the
el derecho
United Nations
internacional,
and international
deben
law,
prevalecer
must
como el
prevail
método preferible y
as
eficaz
the
para la
preferred
resolución
and
pacífica de
effective
los conflictos.
means for the peaceful
Be
settlement of
savage
disputes.
about
Thank you
it.
very
I thank
much.
the representative of Panama for the statements,
What we
and I
want.
give
We're
the floor
just
to the
gonna fuck you
representative of
up.
Latvia.
So they're less likely
Thank
to
you,
get
Mr.
involved
President.
at this point because of that.
Allow me to
You know what I
begin
mean?
by thanking the United Kingdom as presidency of this council for convening this meeting on such short notice. I would also like to thank the Secretary General for the briefing provided. For decades, Iran has been a malign, destabilizing actor in the region and beyond. It has repeatedly and systematically violated its international obligations and posed a threat to international peace and security. The Iranian regime has attacked and destabilized neighbors, exported terrorism, developed an illegal ballistic missile program, and participated in widespread sanctions circumvention. Iran has violated UN Security Council resolutions 1696, 1737, 1747, 1803, 1835, 1929, and this aggressive behavior is consistent. It spans decades. While international law must be respected at all times, the Iranian regime has continuously ignored its responsibilities and binding commitments under the JCPOA and the NPT. The regime has openly maintained its illegal nuclear program, despite repeated and genuine diplomatic engagement from the European Union, the UK, and the US. The IAEA Board of Governors has confirmed over the last 8 months that Iran is failing to engage and to grant monitors access to installations. And this is unacceptable. Iran must cease its illegal nuclear program, comply with its international obligations, and return to the negotiating table. For decades, Iran has maintained terror as its modus operandi. Iran has supported, armed, financed, and trained terrorist groups such as Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. It has enabled and emboldened attacks against countries near and far. It has caused the death of thousands of civilians. It has promoted radicalization and the spread of terrorism, and undermined global energy and maritime security. Beyond the Middle East, Iran has directly supported Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine. More than 50,000 of the same Iranian Shahed drones, now striking numerous countries in the Middle East, have been transferred by Iran to Russia. Iranian weapons, Iranian technology have contributed to killing thousands of innocent Ukrainians. Unlike Russia and Ukraine, Iran is now bringing terror to innocent civilians in the Gulf countries. Latvia stands with the brave people of Iran, brave people that have endured so much, decades of brutality and repression. Recently, this council met to address the atrocities perpetrated by the Islamic regime against its own people in the streets of Iran. Latvia and the European Union have already imposed sanctions against the IRGC. The Iranian people must be able to determine their own future, free from violence and repression. Mr. President, Latvia joins the call for an immediate cessation of hostilities and urgent de-escalation. We call on all sides to protect civilians and avoid further escalation. Latvia condemns the unprovoked Iranian strikes against countries in the region, namely our fellow member of the Council, Bahrain, and Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates. Strikes on these countries constitute a threat to regional and international peace and security, and we stand in solidarity with our partners.
Thank you. Muhammad,
I thank the representative of Latvia for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as a representative of the United Kingdom.
Muhammad said he met an angel of light.
I thank the Secretary General
told him
for
of
his
a
briefing.
religion of God, but different than God.
Colleagues,
It was of the devil.
this is a fragile moment for the Middle East. The United Kingdom played no role in the strikes against Iran. But we are under no illusion about the nature of the Iranian regime.
If I do this right here, clip, because now there's no lag. We're going to go live in a little bit from the laptop or from the cell phone, so we have no lag whatsoever, and we'll play it off of the laptop. But right now, I'm cooking dinner, and I got to eat. You know, I went to and how quickly these Democrats change. You notice there weren't any anti-ICE protesters out there today. They were all kill Donald Trump protesters. Just stupid. You know what I mean? They have nothing that they stand for. These people have nothing. They're protesting in the streets right now. You know what I mean? They're protesting. So I'm making yellow rice with black beans and kielbasa sausage tonight. And I'm going to eat this whole plate's going to be slammed full of it. And then as soon as I get done doing that, we're immediately going to go live again from the cell phone, because there's a lot of lag in the laptop. I'm getting a new, I broke my webcam the other day, so we're going live straight from the camera on the laptop right now. Sorry about that. But we'll look at some more Iran crap. I got to pull some up. That. What did I do? I see what I did. Hold on. Clip. Is this feed going? Yeah. Make it bigger. I'll share you over here so you can see this shit. Is next week, I'm going to boil the chicken, and I'm going to make some good old southern chicken and yellow rice, baby. Oh, it's going to be so good. Boil it until it falls off the bone. Take that off. I'm sure you can hear me a lot better now. the lag goes away. I've got 7 different apps open in order to